once I became a Muslim myself, I realised the value of life. Like, life is not only what you see on TV, clothes, jewels, trying to be rich. Life is not that. Life is you worshipping the one who created you, and in order to do that, you have to cut off certain things. You can't be on the roads selling this, selling that, shooting this, shooting that, and saying you're a Muslim. Because that's not what Islam is. Islam is a way of life. It shows you how to live your life.
It says the road, you know that?
No, the road don't show you how to live your life. The road helps you or makes you think that this is what you want in life. It's a quicker way of getting what you want in life. But at the same time, there's boundaries. Something can stop you from getting what you want, either jail or this Islam way of life. But there's nothing that will stop you from living that right path except for yourself.
It's got to be through Islam then. Redemption has got to be through Islam, does it?
Not really, because it all depends on the individual itself, but Islam is a strong key that helped a lot of people turn around. I've got brethren that used to be serious, proper, you'll never think they'll change. Islam changed them around. Like, money's nothing to them now. They don't have a penny in their pocket, they don't care about that because they've got Islam. Islam is like a replacement of everything else. With Islam, they feel happy, they feel calmer. Like, they don't go around chasing this, chasing that no more, because they got Islam. So I think to myself, in a way, yeah, you do need Islam to just set out the boundaries of what do you need in life. If no one ain't got no knowledge on Islam or nothing, like for example, certain Christians, because they got Christianity, they don't do certain things because they got their faith there. Without faith, there's nothing there basically. You just think you're just living for here.
Street has been praised for its work by the Department of Communities and Local Government and the highly respected think tank Demos. It's precisely the kind of organisation, had it been around 10 years ago, that should have picked up the radicalisation of my former flatmate Richard Reed before he boarded a plane with a bomb in his shoe. The Richard Reed I knew was a tall and gangly mixed-race teen who could pass for Mediterranean but was insistent on being black. Dr. Abdul Haq Baker, the founder of Street, was the chairman of Brixton Mosque when Richard Reed started worshipping there. He also knew Richard. I asked Dr. Baker what he remembers about Richard.
I remember when I was having a spring clean of the mosque, and he stayed around and we were pulling things out of the cupboards together, and he was happy, he was relaxed. What then happened, I think, he was edgy from the point that he came across some of the more extremist rhetoric. When he became a Muslim, like all of us, we have an empathy for the complete Muslim community, irrespective of where they are. When Bosnia happened, we felt the pain there. Palestine, Afghanistan, Iraq, you name it, every Muslim feels the pain and anguish of what's happening there. Richard was pulled in a direction that you need to do something now. And he got a misunderstanding about what jihad actually meant. So when this misunderstanding started taking place, and when the focus of the extremists kept saying, look, the rest of the Muslim world are doing nothing, we need to do something, he needed something to, I think, satiate that longing to be a part of something that was universal. Richard came in with this racial mix-up. He was therefore very, very susceptible to any message that called to action, that called to ending that psychological confusion that he was feeling at the time. And the extremist rhetoric was the one that was most potent. He left our community because he felt the ideological foundation was strong, but in the arena of action, or his perception of jihad, that we didn't share that with him. We were passive. He wanted action. Passivity is not the result that he was looking for.
One of the tasks for Street is to reach potential Richard Reeds before they go astray, to convert an extremist convert. Abdul Haq Baker describes the process as a deconstruction.
When many of us embrace the religion, you learn the foundational aspects, but then you will also learn things from books and tapes, political aspects and things like this. You may read up about history of what happened in Egypt, for example, with the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, when you're reading that and you've got this zeal for Islam, and you want it to happen here and now, and you want to try and implement that, then you've got that particular notion, and then you get the notion that, well, look at what's happening to the Muslim world at the moment. They're weak, they need soldiers. We are those soldiers. We've always been soldiers before we were Muslims. We have the energy to go out and take these things forward. And if you've got the wrong person sitting with you saying, yes, it is, and blowing yourself up and killing innocents is jihad, immediately you've got the wrong understanding of jihad. The light bulb moments that they have are actually quite amazing. Now, that doesn't mean we pacify them. We say, we share your views on Afghanistan, Iraq, what's happening. We believe that there's oppression going on. We do say this because we believe this, and many of the Muslims believe this. We don't have a strategy to pacify the individuals, but we say to them, looking at the stage that we are at as Muslims, what can we religiously do that is permissible, that doesn't cause harm to the Muslims, the wider Muslim community, by our actions and by our statements? Well, I'm not going to say to assume what the extremists are doing is correct, because it's not correct. But all we've got to do is look at the fruits of what they've done. Has the Muslim world and the Arab and Muslim countries and Muslims in the West benefited from the action of the extremists, or have we suffered? And anyone looking, it is easy to discern that the Muslim world has suffered as a result of the actions of the extremists.
But what about the young black British converts who don't find home in mainstream mosques and don't know about projects such as Street? Where do they go?
We find that many who attend our premises, our activities, don't attend the mosque. So this is evidence in itself that we are there bridging that particular gap. If we have major concerns and certainty of someone being extreme, it's the civic duty of everyone to report that. If we have certainty, just because someone has ideas, their ideas shouldn't be policed, and we're not here to do that. We're here to help them understand and contextualize how to participate in society, in their local and wider communities. It's got to be a grassroots up-led direction, not what we've seen top-down, coercive way of working. That doesn't work. When you're looking from the grassroots, you can identify everything. When you're looking with the top-down approach that we've seen of government, statutory bodies, the hard-handedness of the police and intelligence services, that will never work, never work. It will have muted success, but the cracks will continue.
But there are also cracks in other places. Just as their parents, estranged from the established congregations, chose to build their own churches, black converts are establishing their own mosques. I thought Islam saw no colour lines in terms of race. Abdul Haq Baker.
When I embraced Islam in 1990 and my colleagues, I've witnessed more racism in Islam than I did before I became a Muslim. And that's a profound statement, but I know from the research that I've done and from the convert Muslims, African Caribbean converts of the older generation, they experienced that. And that's one of the reasons, that was one of the impetuses behind Brixton Mosque being founded by our elders many years ago. Since 1990, thousands have embraced Islam at Brixton Mosque and have been comfortable with the environment and the atmosphere that's prevalent.
I think there is an element of truth to that, and in certain cases intra-racism within the communities still remain quite a problem. I think Asian communities haven't been as welcoming as they should be when it comes to black and African people.
Ajmal Masroor is a visiting imam to several London mosques that invite him to lead prayer. He says racism is a problem amongst Muslims.
So Abdul Haq Baker's experience, I don't think is isolated, and I myself have seen it and witnessed it and have stood up against it and said, stop it guys, this is simple and blatant racism. My father's generation, who came to this country in the early 50s, and subsequently when they built their small community centres, mosques, which were very insular for themselves only, it was a cultural expression, a sense of preservation, sense of creating a network. From there to the mosques now becoming centre for excellence, providing facilities and services from birth to death, where Muslims and non-Muslims are benefiting from the services. So there has been a shift, and therefore a generational shift should have taken place naturally. That's one thing I believe hasn't happened at much as speed as I would have liked it to have happened. So generations are still continuing to control some of these mosques who are from the 50s, while second and the third generation are around, perfectly capable. Only thing they need is an opportunity to lead these centres. And as soon as that happens, I believe some of these barriers that have been artificially created by racism or cultural barriers that have been created by racial prejudices will disappear.
What about the future? Will Street have to continue indefinitely unravelling the potentially lethal mix of faith and identity confusion that is being young, black, British and a Muslim convert? A question I put to Abdul Haq Baker.
We can play a very effective role as conduits between the wider non-Muslim society and the Muslim society. We are the ones who can, I think, give a more productive and comprehensive debate about extremism. We do not have loyalties and affinities to our parents' homeland as such because we are here in this land. Our parents immigrated here many years ago. We are intrinsically British. The main culture amongst the youth is the street culture, which is predominantly black. And we're seeing that when we embrace Islam as converts, that, again, the energy and the talent that's there amongst converts is the solution societally to addressing violent extremism, to addressing the social ills that are affecting African Caribbean youth at grassroots and white youth at grassroots who are being neglected as well. It is the solution, but we should be recognised as having a role to play in, I think, bridging that divide.
Munira Williams wants to bridge the gap between Islam and wider British society through her hip-hop group Poetic Pilgrimage and also through good neighbourliness.
Affirmation, I can make it. All I need is a little patience. Keep dreaming and the rest will follow. Keep dreaming and the rest will follow. This is my affirmation.
I try, and in our music we certainly try to bridge a gap between communities. We try to bring some form of understanding. It's part and parcel of who I am. It's part and parcel of me as an artist, me as a Muslim. As a Muslim, I want my family to understand about who I am. I want people who are Muslims not to just judge Christians like they're the heathens, and I want them to understand who they are. Well, so many kind of conflicts happen on a day-to-day basis based on people not really knowing much about other people. At Eid time, I'll bring presents to my neighbours because I want them to know I'm a Muslim. So regardless of whether they open up the newspaper and it says all Muslim women want everybody in Britain to die now if you're not a Muslim, my neighbours know that every Eid I bring them food. They know that I try to be helpful, and I think it's just essential, it's important to do that.
For me, it's not hard to see why young black Britons are drawn to Islam. The black British experience is predicated by questions about identity and faith, and for young black Brits, the issue of where they fit in their country. Islam seems to offer young black British converts, if not answers, then solutions, discipline and commitment that they don't find in the religion of their parents. Richard Reddy, author of the book Black Muslims in Britain.
I do think that this whole Islamic phenomena is not something that, in 10 years' time or 20 years' time will disappear. So it's not a case of, from a church perspective, sitting this one out, thinking, well, we can bide our time. People, the same way that they find faith, will lose faith. There is something about becoming a Muslim, a commitment that, once you make that commitment, chances are you will probably stay with it, especially for many of these young people who have found it after searching. If that's the end of a quest, the end of a search, chances are you're going to hold on to what you have, especially if you believed it's transformed you.
Young, Muslim and Black was presented by Dotun Adebayo and produced in Manchester by Carmel Lonergan. After the news, Gardener's Question Time.